you break the seal on that liquor bottle, that's a government seal you're breaking. Oh, I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled.
Beer actually does contain a lot of nutrition, and it's certainly not empty calories, which some people believe it to be.
500 years of German purity law.
Beer is the most consumed alcoholic beverage in the world.
And the third most popular drink overall, only after water and tea. Beer forms part of the culture of many nations today and has been associated with social traditions for over 10,000 years. Ancient Egyptians knew over 100 remedies using beer. Ales predate ancient Egypt and were prescribed for medicinal purposes. They have a history of healing what ails you. In ancient Mesopotamia, women were chief brewers, and their brews were daily dietary staples. Brewing and baking have been performed side by side throughout time, and beer was once known as liquid bread. Some monks fasted for the 40 days of Lent, drinking only their brews for nutrition. Today, there are so many styles of beer that to say you do not like beer is like to say you do not like art. You tried it once and did not like it.
When somebody tells me that they don't like beer, I say I don't believe you. I can find a beer that you will like.
Yet, when so many people hear the word beer, their mind visualizes a pale domestic lager produced by a large multinational corporation. Bland beer. But thankfully, today there are thousands of smaller producers making better beer all around the world, and home brewing is legal pretty much everywhere. But bland beer is big business.
Totally automated. The brewing process is controlled by only 4 people and produces 10 million bottles a day. Totally automated. The brewing process is controlled by only
4 people and produces 10 million bottles a day.
There has been a brewery on this site since 1366.
There is still some nutrition in beer today, but it seems to be a small, much smaller amount compared to when it was brewed in the home. Before, beer was being brewed for profit and was a dietary staple. Welcome to the basic intro to beer. Subscribe and hit the bell because we have so many more exciting videos coming. If you want support on Patreon, otherwise go over to Instagram. All of the links are below, and remember to leave a comment and a like.
It's older than ancient Egypt and has a history of healing what ails you.
Beer is only beer as defined by the federal government if it has 4 ingredients in it.
500 years of German purity law.
And what are they? Barley, or another fermentable starch source like wheat or rice. Hops, flowers from a plant in the hemp family. Yeast, a single-cell fungus. And water. The amount of ingredients added can vary from brewer to brewer, but this is the basic recipe.
And the best and easiest way to understand beer is to remember the 3 main flavoring components. Water accounts for more than 90% of the final product. Malts form the backbone, hops are the spice, and the yeast provides for the fermentation magic. And it has been like this for less than 600 years, but more than
500 years of German purity law. The law stipulated, "Thou shalt use no other piece than barley, hops, and water for making beer."
Many brewers continue to limit themselves with these ingredients today, ignoring the herbs that were often used in healing ales of times past. Instead of healing ales with many herbs, the German way of brewing beer with only 4 ingredients.
This recipe for beer began to spread all over Germany and eventually the entire world. These 4 natural ingredients and the brewing expertise of more than 1,300 German breweries allow us to produce more than 1 million different kinds of beer.
The more and more you get into beer and brewing, the more German words you will encounter. The German word Lager means storeroom or warehouse. and the word ale also has German roots.
What bears the name of the purity law will always contain but water, malt, hops, and yeast. There won't be any artificial additives, colorants, enzymes, or aromas. German high-quality beer brewed under the purity law has become famous throughout the world and is a real export hit by now.
So many different beers available around the world. The majority of well-known styles fall into just two categories: ales and lagers.
A lager is just a generic term for bottom fermented beer, okay? An ale uses a different type of yeast, and you start creating the alcohol and the yeast rises to the top. Ales are generally fermented warmer, about 15 degrees warmer than a lager, so it provides a completely different flavor.
Now your favorite brand might come light. If so, you're not alone. Bud Light is the largest selling beer in the world.
By the 1970s, beer had been dumbed and watered down to a flavorless, lifeless solution. Beer as we know it began in Germany around 1516. And the history of brewing, quite literally, is the history of civilization. So, how did hop beer come to replace the gruited ale, which was once a top source of nutrition? Throughout time, up until the point where hops were required to be an ingredient in beer, they were completely banned from being used in ale or gruited ale. Hops were thought to bring on melancholy and to put people to sleep. Additionally, hops caused brewers' droop and disrupted fertility. With the Reformation and the Industrial Revolution, brewing as we had known it for thousands of years was literally hijacked and redefined.
The Beer Purity Act was a huge step towards sedating and controlling the emotions, opinions, and rebellious behavior of entire nations that act as really a sedative to the central nervous system.
Since we really focus and feature hops in our beers, hops really are the most critical ingredient for us.
They send alcohol down here to pacify us.
Since we really focus and feature hops in our beers, hops really are the most critical ingredient for us.
Just want to go into the vaccine distribution. Today my administration released our detailed national vaccine distribution plan.
Before there was any such thing as a Republican or a Democrat.
It's ready to go, and it's ready for massive distribution to everybody, with a focus again on seniors. And I will say also the historically black colleges and universities.
We were black.
And I will tell you, our distribution is going to be very rapid and it's going to be all-encompassing. We are going to have a focus on certain groups that have problems, senior citizens, etc. But it's a very powerful, it's going to be a very powerful distribution. It's going to...
Now, hops are used in cases of anxiety and insomnia, and they're great at making stressed people more relaxed and putting them to sleep.
It is this model that we are looking at now that provides us the most detail of the time course that is possible.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
And I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked. Bamboozled. You've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked. Bamboozled. Before there was any such thing as a Mason or an elk, we were black.
And that includes a plan to ensure that we swiftly deliver the vaccine directly to America's senior citizens. I'm just telling you, we're ready to go as soon as the vaccine happens.
So when do you want to see it available? What would be a timeline?
I would
you
say
be
that,
happy with?
we will start distributing it immediately.
But to the general public, not
To
just
the
the
general
virus.
public very shortly. Really to the general public immediately. When we go, we go. We're not looking to say, gee, in 6 months we're going to start giving it to the general public. No, we want to go immediately.
Everyone in high risk will have it sometime, no later than January.
Yeah, he was talking,
That's
he
what
said
I
the
said.
general public for
No,
next
well,
year.
we are
He wasn't
focused.
talking about high risk
As you
or
know,
healthcare,
Caitlin, we're
workers.
focused on high risk, but we're going to focus also on general public very much. But our immediate aim is elderly people. We're not looking at a small distribution program. We're looking at distributing to the whole United States with an immediate focus of the elderly.
Dr. Atlas, you mentioned minorities would be the first focus of the distribution. How would that exactly work in practice when it's being distributed specifically to minorities? And then secondly, for you,
Well, he
Mr.
didn't say minorities, he says minorities
the
and
focus-
senior citizens, yeah.
To clarify, I said that the first prioritization is the high-risk people and frontline healthcare workers. And there's over 14,000 federally qualified health centers that are particularly targeted to minority and low-income areas. So that's a focus.